All right, strap in, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into the Mandela Effect.
Ooh.
That phenomenon where, like, a whole bunch of people all have the same false memory.
Yeah.
You know, like that thing where everyone remembers Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s.
Right?
When he actually totally lived until 2013.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's so wild.
It's a trip.
We've got all these articles with crazy examples, like some insights from Forbes Health about the science of how our memories work.
Okay.
And even a Reddit thread where people are sharing their own, like, personal Mandela Effect experiences.
Awesome.
So by the end of this, you're going to be questioning, like, every single thing you thought you knew.
I love it.
It's going to be good.
So what's really fascinating with the Mandela Effect is that it's not even just forgetting little details.
Yeah.
It's like large groups of people vividly remembering something that, like, literally never happened.
It's like our collective memory is just totally messing with us.
Yeah.
Like one of the most common examples is the spelling of the Berenstain Bears.
Oh.
Like, so many people insist it was Berenstain.
With an E?
With an E, yeah. I mean, it just feels right.
Right. It does. And that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
Even Stan Berenstain's son, he talked about how, like, that name was consistently mispronounced and misspelled throughout his dad's whole life.
Wow.
So, like, this suggests that it's not just random.
Yeah.
There's something about how our brains, like, process and store information that just makes us prone to this specific error.
Like our brains are just like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm going to file that under spine because it's easier.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of our brains, like playing tricks on us,
Yeah.
let's talk about that super iconic line from Star Wars.
Okay.
Luke, I am your father.
Ooh, this is a good one.
Except that's not actually what he said.
Right.
Not at all.
The actual line is, "No, I am your father."
Yeah.
The Luke is, like, completely gone from the movie.
Yeah.
But so many people remember it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, distinctly.
Totally.
This could be linked to what, like, psychologists call the gist effect.
Okay.
Where our brains kind of remember the overall meaning or, like, emotional impact of an event, but, like, misremember the actual specifics.
So we're getting the drama, but not the words.
Exactly.
Okay, I could see that.
We capture the essence, the dramatic reveal, but not necessarily the accuracy.
Yeah, so our brains are all about the drama over the accuracy.
It seems like it.
Okay, so this next one is a doozy.
Okay.
You remember Fruit of the Loom underwear?
Yeah.
I swear, there used to be a cornucopia
Oh, yeah.
overflowing with fruit on that label.
The cornucopia, yes.
I swear.
This one's a classic.
A classic example of a shared false memory.
Totally.
People will describe it in such detail,
Yeah.
even claiming that they drew it, like, in school.
Right.
But the logo has always just been a pile of fruit.
Just fruit.
No cornucopia.
No cornucopia at all.
I wonder, maybe it's because we always see those images of cornucopias, like, around Thanksgiving time, and our brains just, like, kind of merge the two together.
It's possible, right? Our
Yeah.
brains are always making these associations.
Right.
And sometimes those associations lead to these false memories, especially if they're reinforced by, like, imagery or cultural things.
Yeah. So it's like our brains are master storytellers,
Yeah.
like weaving together these bits of information to make a story that feels complete, even if it's not totally accurate.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that actually brings us to another fascinating part of the Mandela Effect.
Yeah.
That whole social reinforcement thing.
Right.
When we, like, share memories with people
Yeah.
and they confirm them, it strengthens our belief in them, even if they're false.
Even if they're wrong.
Right.
Oh,
And the internet and social media have just amplified that.
well, for sure.
So it's created these online communities where people can just validate each other's false memories.
Right.
And it just, like, spreads misinformation.
It's like a giant echo chamber
Yeah.
for the Mandela Effect.
Totally.
Okay, but what about those cases where the memory is so specific and so unusual
Yeah.
that it just seems impossible that it could have been made up or misremembered?
Right.
Like, what about those people who swear they remember an entire movie
Oh, like Shazam.
that never existed?
Yeah, the Sinbad Genie movie
Yeah.
that never existed.
Countless people claim to remember this movie,
Yeah.
but there's literally no evidence of it.
Nope.
It's like we all just imagine an entire film.
It really makes you question the boundaries between memory and perception and reality.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what is even real?
That's a good question.
So this example might be a case of our brains, like, blending together different things from pop culture.
That's possible.
Sinbad was big in the 90s, family films.
Yeah.
And then there's that movie Kazam.
With Shaq as the genie. Yeah.
It's possible that our brains just trying to make sense of it all.
Right.
They just combine the two.
They combine them.
To create this false memory.
Right.
It's like our brains are always remixing and remastering our experiences.
It seems like it.
So where does that leave us?
Right.
If our memories can be so easily changed
Manipulated.
and distorted,
Yeah.
can we even trust them at all?
That's a great question.
Right.
And one that I think we should explore further as we dive deeper into the psychology and the neuroscience of memory.
Let's get into the science of it all.
Okay, so one of the biggest things to understand is that our memories aren't perfect recordings of the past.
Right.
They're more like reconstructions that our brains kind of piece together each time.
Oh.
When we access them, pulling from different sensory experiences, emotions, and stuff we already know.
So it's not like hitting play on a video.
No.
It's more like putting together a puzzle.
Yeah.
But sometimes we might be using pieces from the wrong box.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because of that whole reconstruction thing, there's room for error.
Right.
Think of it like the game of telephone.
Oh, yeah.
As a message gets passed from person to person, it gets all distorted.
Totally.
That same thing can happen with our memories.
Right.
Each time we recall something, we might accidentally add stuff, subtract stuff, or even just change the details.
So our brains are trying to create a story that makes sense.
Yes.
Even if it means filling in the gaps with a little creative liberty.
Exactly. And that leads us to something called confabulation.
Confabulation?
Yeah, it's way more complex than just memory distortion.
No.
With confabulation, the brain doesn't just change existing memories. It literally creates new ones.
What?
Yeah, it fabricates memories to fill in gaps or to make sense of info that's incomplete.
Wow.
And the crazy part,
right,
the person actually believes these made-up memories are real.
So they're not lying.
No.
It's like their brain is actually tricking them.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy, right?
That is a little freaky.
And while confabulation can be linked to, neurological things, it can also happen in healthy people.
Oh, really?
We all do it to a degree.
Ah.
Our brains are wired to find patterns and create stories, even if it means bending reality a bit.
So, how do we tell the difference then?
Yeah.
Between a real memory and one that's been made up?
It's a tough one.
Especially when so many people share those false memories.
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes this whole Mandela Effect so captivating.
Yeah.
It makes us question everything we thought we knew about how memory works and how we see the world.
Right.
And it highlights the power of social influence.
Well, yeah.
And what we believe and how we see things.
So it's not just our brains messing up. It's also how we talk to each other.
Exactly.
And how info spreads.
Absolutely, we're social creatures. And our memories aren't just shaped by our own experiences, but by the experiences and beliefs of everyone around us.
That's crazy.
We talk, we share stories, we read the same news. Right. All of that creates a shared view of the world, even if that view isn't totally accurate.
It's like we're all putting money into this giant memory bank.
Yeah.
But that bank is filled with fake bills.
Exactly. And with the internet and social media, that memory bank is even more vulnerable
to being messed with.
Yeah, false info spreads so fast online.
Oh, for sure.
And once it takes hold, it's tough to correct.
It's making me think about all those online forums.
Oh, yeah.
And comments where people are fighting to defend their Mandela Effect memories.
Right.
Even when there's proof they're wrong.
That's a perfect example of social reinforcement.
Okay.
Solidifying a false memory.
So
when people find others who believe the same thing, it validates them.
Yeah.
It makes them resistant to change.
Even when they see evidence that contradicts what they believe.
Exactly. It's like finding a group who all think the sky is green.
Okay.
You might start to question your own eyes, right?
Right. And I think that's what's so interesting about the Mandela Effect.
Yeah.
It's not just about weird little details we get wrong.
It's bigger than that.
It's about truth.
Yeah.
And how we figure out what's real when we're constantly being bombarded with info.
Right.
It makes you wonder, can we ever be sure of anything?
That's a huge question, one that philosophers have been debating for centuries.
Wow.
The Mandela Effect forces us to face the limits of human perception and the uncertainty of, everything.
Good.
It reminds us that our understanding of reality is always changing.
So how do we deal with that?
Right.
How do we make sense of something like the Mandela Effect?